Hi, this is Dee at Aloha, Astro. Let's take a look at the new moon in Libra, Tuesday, October 21st. Ordains that you trust your impulses and intuition to guide you toward a higher love for yourself to be shared with another, with family, community, or society, or whatever divine power you feel called to connect with more deeply. As the moon conjunct the sun in Libra forms a yod, also known as a finger of God, aspect pattern with Uranus retrograde in Gemini and Neptune retrograde in Aries, conjunct Saturn retrograde in Pisces, while also engaging in a grand cross aspect pattern with Chiron retrograde in Aries, Jupiter in Cancer, and Pluto in Aquarius. Fears, including false perceptions of limitation and a distrust of allowing yourself to be vulnerable or to accept anything that feels good or seems too good to be true, can be rooted in the past. The pain you associate with love lost or rejected may still reverberate, but two supportive grand trine aspect patterns help you break free from the potential downward spiral of the Grand Cross, showing you that it is possible to use it as a catalyst for personal growth, healing, and transformation when you refuse to feed those defensive or defeatist feelings and stories with further attention. A grand trine in the water element consisting of Mercury exactly conjunct Mars in Scorpio, Jupiter and Saturn conjunct Neptune form the body of a kite, which directs intuition, sensitivity, trust, and faith toward clear and fearless decisions, communication, and action, while the second grand trine in the air element, involving Venus in Libra, Uranus in Gemini, and Pluto in Aquarius, indicates that love is the power which can change your perspective and experience of any relationship. Because Gemini rules the third house of community, communication, casual contacts, and siblings, Libra rules the seventh house of one-on-one relationships, romantic love, and marriage, and Aquarius rules the 11th house of friends, groups, society, and humanity. The cardinal, boss-like air sign of Libra is ruled by the planet Venus, which is transiting Libra now and sits at the tail of the kite aspect pattern, bisecting the kite via an opposition to the conjunction of spiritual and idealistic Neptune in a self-aware Mars-ruled fire sign, and realistic and materially minded Saturn in the Neptune-ruled water sign of Pisces, to add personal desire, affection, aesthetic sensitivity, and diplomacy to a new moon full of observation, contemplation, judging, balancing, deciding, accepting, forgiving, or releasing in matters of the heart. You must check in on all levels and own your part in any exchange of energy with another. Venus, Saturn, and Neptune bring your attention to the here and now, but also awaken the realization that love is eternal, and although you may place expectations and conditions upon loving or those you love, love itself has no boundaries or limits. If you are at a crossroads in any kind of relationship, choose the path of love and growth. And if there is no longer any to be shared and nurtured in the present, let go with love and create space for something new to grow. But don't be afraid to love deeply and express love at this lunation. So let's take a look at what the chart is doing. And you can see that we have an awful lot of pretty geometry here, everything tightly enclosed. In fact, I don't think we have anything really that isn't participating in something else. Yeah, everything is somehow engaged with something else. Nothing is freestanding right now, which creates its own interesting dynamic. The fact that all the planets are somehow interacting with each other does make this a particularly potent new moon. The other thing that jumped out at me immediately is that Uranus, the planet of change and the future, uniqueness, individuality, freedom, is at 0 degrees 39 minutes, and its shift over through the retrograde motion back into Taurus is imminent, and that is a Venus-ruled Earth sign. So we're moving out of the Mercury-ruled air energy very soon with that planet, giving us a chance to go back over something maybe that involves values or our self-worth and self-esteem, because Taurus does rule the second house, and that is a money and value house. And Neptune is also getting ready to shift. In fact, I think it's tomorrow that it will be going back into Pisces during its retrograde. And we will not have those two slower outer planets returning to Gemini and Aries until we get into the late winter, early spring. So chances to go back over something, and Neptune going back into its ruling sign where it will join Saturn. It's been chummy with Saturn for a couple of months now. If there's anything that you've been longing for, yearning for, any dream that has not been, you haven't been able to bring it to fruition, these two retrograde planets may help you with that. Aries gave a lot of push, but perhaps there was lack of full preparation or lack of the commitment and the actual follow through, the commitment, the endurance necessary to bring that dream to fruition. And those are the two planets right now. They form a sextile with each other, and they're creating that yod with the moon and the sun in Libra, those green dotted lines, creating that triangle there. And a yod can feel as though you are being directed by a higher power to do something, as if there is something inescapable about it. This would be asking you to really look at yourself in all your relationships and in some way go to a higher level, as well as maybe commit more deeply or accept your part in things, as well as not being afraid to take that risk or chance. Because we also have the planet Uranus making an opposition to Mercury and Mars in Scorpio. And Scorpio is a sign that it's a value sign, and we either protect and defend our boundaries, or we open up and we merge and join with someone else under that sign. And that is something to consider from the perspective of letting your defenses down, taking that risk or chance, listening to what your intuition and your impulses, the Uranus and Neptune energy, bringing that intuitive guidance as well as the impulse to go ahead, take that leap, express what you're feeling. Don't be afraid to share, to open up, and put your whole self into something. Being authentically you within relationship may also be some of what the yod is pointing to, because of Uranus and Neptune conjunct Saturn. It made me think of that expression. If you can't be yourself, be Batman. Is that it? Well, I would vote for being yourself at this new moon, so that you are more likely to find yourself in relationships that are harmonious, because whatever your energy is, and you're going to attract that to you. So if you're going out there in the world trying to be somebody that you are not, and then you're attracting people that you're thinking, why don't I like this person, or why don't we get along, or there's no depth here, no meaning. Well, maybe it's because you are also not opening up fully and being true to yourself. And Chiron is actually the most challenged planet, technically asteroid, but the retrograde energy, as well as participating in that grand cross, this is where there can be that stuckness in the past and the fear of sharing, or, yeah, well, I've tried that love stuff before, and you know what? I think I'll just stay single. Meanwhile, you're gazing hungrily at everybody else who you see appears to be in love. So think about what stories you're telling yourself and what you've been carrying around with you, and is it holding you back? Is it so dark and heavy that it's keeping you from having something that could be magnificently wonderful and would push you toward further growth and empowerment? Because Pluto and Jupiter are in that grand cross, but they are also involved in these two grand trines. So look at that big red box not as something that's got you locked in, but something that is motivating you to not want to stay there. And the two grand trines can lift you higher, as can the kite. This is all about perception. We have some very perceiving energy going on with Libra and Scorpio, both highly perceptive signs that look and examine. Libra rules the 7th house, Scorpio rules the 8th, and they are both relating houses in the zodiac. The 7th, the Libra energy, is more about how we want to be seen by society, how we present ourselves to others, how we present as a couple. And Scorpio is more about what goes on behind closed doors, where we share that intimacy or the bonds of trust and values and money, and where we make those deeper commitments that sometimes involve money or legalities. And heavy emphasis right now with all the fast moving planets, Venus, Moon, and Sun, Mars, and Mercury, in those two signs that have rulership over houses 7 and 8. So it doesn't have to be just romantic, but it may be. And it may also be business and financial, and wherever you are sharing your resources or your values with somebody else. Now, if these planets are sitting, let's say, moving through your 9th and 10th houses, you would feel it differently than somebody who has these planets moving through their own relating houses. Take a look at your chart and see where you find these planets. In the center of your chart wheel, beginning over there with the ascendant, you will see the houses numbered counterclockwise, and look to see where these planets in the sky happen to be moving through your chart. When you are at astro.com, where you can set up a chart for free, you can toggle on the transits to your natal chart, or you can use their free horoscope, daily horoscope feature, and it will tell you where those planets are transiting in your chart, and it will show you the chart with these planets that are inside the wheel on the outer edge of your natal chart wheel, so you can see exactly which houses they are affecting. So a lot of dynamic energy in here, more of it supportive than challenging overall. But, if you've got patterns here that you want to stay stuck in, and I can tell you, if you're going to indulge in any woe is me, or you're going to go repeating your stories to other people, most likely you're going to be left alone, and people aren't going to want to hang out with you all that much. So better to think toward the future rather than being stuck in the past. But when you are examining past relationships, uh, it definitely helps to recognize that no matter how you felt perhaps when things ended, at one point there was love. And that is something that Saturn and Neptune conjunct is there to remind you, as they are both retrograde. And then Venus in that kite, well, that's literally saying that love is the power that changes things, and forgiveness and acceptance may also play a role in that as well, particularly while the planet of forgiveness and acceptance, Neptune, is making a trine to Jupiter, which is also a relatively friendly and forgiving and supportive planet. It gets challenging to carry around all your past pain and hurt, and maybe if you're feeling it very strongly right now, you are meant to, so that you can come to that decision that you no longer want to. And that's a choice. We always have the power to choose how we feel. Let's take a look at the Sabian symbol. So we round up to 29 degrees, mankind's vast and enduring effort to reach for knowledge transferable from generation to generation. Keynote, a deep sense of participation in and commitment to social processes which seek to bring to all men truth and a greater life. The most characteristic trait in human nature is the ability to bind time, as Korzybski once stated. That is, to transfer to other men, as yet unborn, the harvest of his conscious experiences and his deliberate endeavors. This ability far transcends instinct and biological mutations, for it is based on consciousness, choice, will, and self-sacrifice for the sake of future human beings. It rests upon a deep feeling of the value of community. Its use increases this feeling and eventually destroys the roots of loneliness. This fourth stage symbol suggests the technique that makes a life truly human: to join other men and women in the vast process of a living civilization to fulfill the basic implications of the human stage of cosmic evolution, a stage characterized by conscious participation. Well, I had to go look up who this was, Korzybski, and he was a Polish philosopher, popular in the 1950s. And I don't think I've ever read any of his work, but I may go back and find out more. This definitely feels less individually romantic as a Libra symbolism, and much more about humanity and, well, the higher outer planets is what we've got going on here in the minor grand trine that caps off this grand trine to create that kite. These are the three planets that have been keeping pace with each other for a while now, keeping this particular aspect pattern, that smaller blue triangle, hanging around. It's basically saying, okay, humanity, you've got to do better. And wherever you have it individually in your natal chart, transiting Uranus, transiting Neptune, transiting Pluto, those areas of life are going to factor in for you to look toward the future, change, express more of your uniqueness and individuality, and share it with the collective, to basically open up spiritually to become a spiritual warrior while Neptune's been in Aries. Saturn's not quite as far out there as those other outer planets, but for a while it's been hanging around with Neptune. But for now I'm skipping it. I'm just looking at these three slow movers that have been keeping pace with each other quite nicely. And Pluto, the transformation, crisis, upheaval, resurrection things that basically transform, and it brings intensity as well as empowerment or disempowerment. But that can be very much a conscious choice, and it's being directed through the sign of the humanitarian or humanity as a whole, and the collective consciousness of society expressed through organized people, people coming together and organizing. So there's a lot going on, and although it may look as though the world is a bit of a mess right now, this is all meant to be action of, I think, a clearing out to prepare for the new energy coming in when we get back in the spring, to Uranus returning to Gemini and Neptune returning back into Aries and Pluto continuing forward in Aquarius. I'm curious to see what's going to happen then, because it's important to hold the higher energy right now, no matter what the outer appearances may be. The outer appearances are simply what we were thinking at one time, or what a certain percentage are still thinking, and our thoughts and our consciousness do impress upon the formless and create the reality. And that configuration of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto is basically saying, go higher or you don't. So there's really very little choice in the matter. If you want life to begin to appear to be better out there in the world, you have to hold that image of it being better. And then you have to put forth your best efforts, not just in your consciousness, but also in what you're doing in your day-to-day world. Okay, I think that's it for this new moon in Libra. It's a big one. It's a beautiful one. And hopefully the seeds that you plant now will grow into something beautiful in the not too distant future. Take care and stay safe. I'll be back again tomorrow with tomorrow's forecast.